I have learned to really celebrate a great poop.
It's the best feeling.
Something that I never would have done when I was younger.
It's like we don't give a shit about our own shit.
Exactly.
Hello, SoulNet friends.
Welcome, SoulNet listeners.
Hello, SoulNet friends.
Today, we are scooping on poop and sharing how the toilet bowl can offer us a window into our overall health. We share how smoothie and diet culture, as well as environment, also play roles in dampening our digestive fire. And then it's not just about what we eat, but what we can digest that helps us feel better in both body and mind. Let's jump in. That would be my, number one is how do you manage the digestive piece? Honestly, like looking at your poop and understanding what healthy digestion looks like is huge because the toilet bowl gives us a lot of insight into what is going on in our health. And this goes from what the stool looks like. Are there digested or undigested particles in there? Is it sticky? Is it dry and pellet-like? Like all of these things tell us exactly what's happening. And so dampness, especially in a kapha person, tends to show up as sticky poop too. So what do you need to do then? You need to dry out some of those parts. And I do think it's why, again, all my years of being a patient and now as a teacher, that these foods that we take in really do matter. And then depending on where we live, they might need to get altered a little bit too.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing that all doshas will benefit in cold, wet climates from more heating practices, fire enabling practices, and drying out practices.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Like everything's cooked. The veggies are cooked. I just trying to draw some comparison to other cultures. Like Indian food is warm and spice and stews, and like Middle Eastern stews.
Mediterranean is amazing.
So in the Western culture, we just don't, that's not what we were raised. Like I'm thinking about myself, right? And so isn't it interesting that we live in this damp climate and the food we eat dampens our system and weighs us down.
And then you add diet culture and you've got smoothies for breakfast, salads for lunch. There's nothing warm in there, especially if your other habits are really inflammation building. That's a recipe for not feeling good.
And illness down the road. Yeah. Or I even think of like the microbrewery culture. I don't know if that's more dampening. We're just screwed. So even practices like non-dietary practices could be like you mentioned, the dry brushing to help with that cold, damp environment, dry brushing, even like energy movement practices like Tai Chi or Qigong, or like movement medicine practices that focus on energetic movement.
And breath work.
Spicy breath work, hot breath work. Think about hot movement practices too. So if we were to take yoga, you're not in your yin restorative here because that's great for your vatas, but kapha is actually like power yoga. Let's spice it up, like more of a vinyasa based where you're building heat in the body. Internal heat.
Yeah, got it.
When you're doing that and we're in a damp climate, what about feeling refreshed? Like once you've gone mountain biking or you've gone on a big hike, like I think that ice water or that smoothie or that cold brew probably feels refreshing, but it's probably dampening. So it's like, are we now to think about room temperature? What are we thinking about
hydration?
For how do we refresh when we, how do we feel hydrated?
We definitely crave when it's hot. We crave the cold. But once you actually start drinking room temperature water or warm water, and you start to notice the difference in your physiology, the cold stuff doesn't have quite that same appeal anymore. I will say, again, Ayurveda is an experience-based model. And so what we do is we use all of these tools to find out what your dosha is and where your imbalances are. And then we use that as kind of a playbook to figure out what might be the best practices to bring you back into balance. And then you choose these ones that we've kind of fine-tuned for you, and then you apply them in your life. And if you're building awareness within your own self, which is one of the intentions kind of behind it, you start to go, oh, I feel better when I do that. Like I mentioned, I did salads for a long time. My digestion when I eat warm foods is like so good. And I actually I have learned to really celebrate a great poop. Something that I never would have done when I was younger, but
it's the best feeling.
When you look in that bowl and it is well formed, easy to pass, no undigested stuff, and nothing left on the toilet bowl, it's a fucking win.
I mean, we do it for our kids and our animals, our dogs. Why not do it for ourselves? Like when my dog has a good shit, I'm like, yay, she's got healthy digestion.
You're so right. And for those of us who have kids, it's like we're always looking at their stool to make sure, when they're babies and toddlers and they go through all these developments and different stages, well, then we adjust their diet so that we can figure out what's good, what works with their digestive system and what doesn't. Yeah. Why do we forget about ourselves? Yeah. Why? It's like we don't give a shit about our own shit.
I don't think we were trained in the Western world. I didn't understand that it was important that I pooped every day. I think I was a lot constipated in my younger years too. And I was like, oh, you mean I'm supposed to go to the bathroom every day? I didn't understand the importance of that.
So true.
Well, we don't talk about those things because they're kind of they're messy. No. We don't talk about messy things.
But honestly, Dana, I think a lot of us in our childhood were either constipated or diarrhea. Yeah. Like a lot of us in childhood. Think about it. We're in that Gen X, grew up with dairy.
Early processed food generation.
And early processed food. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Which is not great for us. And I think for some of us, maybe in the age we are now, I wonder about that contributing piece to my autoimmune conditions. I've had microbiome stuff for years. Again, understanding how we cultivate our soil is so, so important. And other alternative practices have understood this for thousands and thousands of years. Agni in Ayurveda, which is what they call digestion, of that digestive fire, is considered the root of all, wellness. Traditional Chinese medicine, they're asking you, what's your digestion like? But we have normalized that we actually can feel bloated and gassy and all of these things. They're like, that's not the sign of a healthy digestion. It's fine to have these fluctuations sometimes, but that shouldn't be your constant. That's a sign that something is wrong. And I think where it really goes awry in kind of Western world is these ancient practices correlate the gut health with the heart health and the health of the brain. And this is starting to come out more and more in Western culture and some of the research. But when we're looking about, again, mind and body health, starts with the digestion, and see how that changes your brain health and changes your heart health.
Totally. Yes.
Yep. Yes. 100%.
When you start to heal digestion, a lot of the maladies of the mind get better.
So true. Brain fog.
I noticed that even in our perimenopause, menopausal state too. The better my nutrition is, the less of that I get.
Yeah. Me too. Chai. I'm going to go make some chai now.
Let's go make some chai. I just got to say, in the middle of, in midlife, I have noticed holy crap, I fart a lot. Every morning. I'm like, what is this?
Interesting.
So digestive fire has lessened in midlife. And so I need to support that.
And your vata piece, so the individual doshas also have predispositions. So vata tends to be irregular digestion. So often you get switchbacks between constipation and maybe loose bowels. So it's the most irregular. And again, think about air and space. It's volatile. So it's switching back. Pittos, we tend to be the ones that we can eat shit and still have pretty decent digestion. And until we can't, right? It's one of those things until you can't. And then kaphas tend to be, again, slow and sluggish and oily, sticky on the digestive side of things. So they're going, and they tend to be more, more volume in their poops too.
It's so true.
That is so interesting because I just want to say, so does that mean I'm thinking about the farting and I was like, so that just means you have more air. So you need more balance. You might need some more fire.
So things that really help with gas and indigestion, especially for Vata, a little bit of ginger or a little bit of lemon to stimulate digestion. So this is where herbs actually come in, and they can be either spicy herbs or they can just be like carminative herbs that are calming. The things that are in our spice cabinet are what really help us from a nutritional component. And a lot of us kind of forget that all of these spices have healing properties for us.
Cardamom, like anything in chai. Cardamom, cinnamon, anise.
Anise.
Ginger is great for Vatas. Like all Vatas should have a little bit of ginger. Turmeric is also great for Pittas, right? Because that's also inflammation. So I actually think it's pretty good for all the doshas, especially as we're getting older, just because it is naturally an anti-inflammatory piece. And again, that aging piece that you're talking about, things showing up as you get older, our organs aren't processing the same way. So we might need a little bit more of something else to help us along the way. And it doesn't have to be in the way of medical intervention. Not that there's anything wrong with medications and stuff like that, but often medications build more problems especially with the microbiome or the different organ systems. So if you can kind of deal with some of these things naturally first and maybe prolong the use of pharmaceuticals, medications till later on, we tend to have a healthier existence, because this layering where people all of a sudden start on one medication and then before they know it, they're taking like 7 different pills a day.
Oh, I love this.
But if you can lean into some of the food pieces, you can do a lot of that through there. And really, again, just looking at the toilet bowl is one of the best indicators. And if you're not seeing, those kind of boxes being ticked, and you're not sure what to do with it, then you reach out to somebody, a nutritionist, a naturopath, someone like me that has the skill set that says, okay, like, what are you eating and how do we fix it? And what I love about it is it's not about, again, going into that Western model about, I don't care what your fucking calories are. I don't care. Like, yes, macros to a certain extent. I want to make sure you're hitting your kind of food groups a little bit, but I'm more concerned with the foods that you're taking in and how they complement each other to make up a healthy digestion. And so it can be as simple as saying, okay, I just want you to add this little bit to what you're already having.
Like, what I love about what I'm hearing too is it's not about diet like taking away and stripping down. It's about like adding little bits in, like, how about some turmeric? How about some cinnamon? Just like, that's what our culture does.
Deprivation
it starves you. It's like deprivation and starvation versus adding in all the these subtle add-ins that just can really bring you into balance and complement.
Like, we have all these blanket health things that we say, but we don't actually understand the individual. And that's where it gets really confusing. Yes. Is it's just like everybody tries to do something that worked for somebody else. And well, that's not going to have the same effects for you that it did for them. And so really recognizing the uniqueness that we all are and starting to really hone in on that. And I hope that medicine will at some point be doing full DNA testing or something that they'll be able to mimic more of this style, because Ayurveda is something that although it is firmly rooted in science, it still has that reputation and a lack of receptivity from certain communities. So, but there is so much value in what it offers to us.
Yeah.
I just want to say for our listeners, because I think this is really important, because we don't, often we don't do this. We just don't do this in our society, in our culture. And I would just offer that as such a, gift from today, from Dana in this conversation. Take time to investigate that. And if you have children, ask them. Have the conversation with your kids. Make sure that they understand, that is an indicator of their health and how their body is doing. Our mind will tell us we're fine, but our body might tell us something very different. And I think it's an important conversation to have with everybody in our circles, because maybe we need to normalize the poop talk, not like potty talk, but poop talk is really important at all stages of our life.
Yes. Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in today, listeners. In our next episode, our very own Eilina Faircrest takes us into some of the emotional parts that we may be unpacking during our midlife transformation. Join us as we continue the journey of finding balance in body, mind, and spirit through these perimenopausal and menopausal years.
SoulNet, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Please note that the information we share in our episodes is not medical advice. If there's anything that piques your interest and curiosity, please follow up with your healthcare provider. Thanks for listening.